What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Sunday, March 30th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 16:30 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East and Eastern Europe. So what you're looking at here are the flight paths of several U.S. aerial refuelers taking off from Rota, Spain, and heading into the Middle East, and also several more aerial refuelers landing in Rota, Spain. And what's concerning about this is Rota, Spain is a bomber base for the U.S. Air Force, and so this is definitely related to the upcoming strikes on Iran that the U.S. is going to do. So this is very, very serious. It means that the U.S. is really close to striking Iran. We could just be hours or days away from a strike. And I heard this morning that Iran rejected Trump's offer to negotiate about Iran's nuclear weapons, okay? And I heard this morning that Iran rejected the offer made by the U.S. to negotiate about their nuclear weapons. So it looks like it's on. It looks like the U.S. will strike Iran very, very soon. And in addition to those KC-135s last night in Rota, we also had 4 KC-46 Pegasus refuelers moved from McGuire Air Force Base to Qatar, and this was on Friday. So in total, at least 8 refuelers moved to the Middle East in the last 48 hours. Okay, that is very, very serious. These refuelers would be critical in refueling American and Israeli warplanes. Okay, so get prepared, guys. It's about to go down, and all hell could break loose once the U.S. strikes Iran. Okay, because we're hearing now that Iran has pre-positioned assets in the Gulf of America and in the Caribbean to strike us here at home. Okay, so this could affect us here at home, and it's possible that Russia and China may take advantage of the situation. Russia could attack the Baltics, and China could attack Taiwan. There's been a lot of buildup in Belarus and in Russia along the border of the Baltics and Poland. And also China has been flying a lot of reconnaissance flights near the Taiwan Strait. So all hell could break loose. Remember that Iran, Russia, and China have a military alliance, okay? So we'll see what happens, but things are really getting serious. And here's a picture from Diego Garcia showing 7 U.S. stealth bombers on the tarmac in Diego Garcia, which is an island in the Indian Ocean. They were moved last week to Diego Garcia. You can see 3 stealth bombers here, and then 4 are in these hangars here, these reinforced hangars, and then you can see 8 refuelers to help refuel them. So this is concerning because we only have 20 B-2 stealth bombers, and they're a critical part of our nuclear triad. So if we're moving 7 of them from the continental United States to a base overseas, that's about 40% of our stealth bombers. We don't move 40% of our stealth bombers for no reason, okay, because they're critical for our nuclear deterrent. So this is very, very serious, guys. It could go down any hour, any day. Make sure you stay close to my channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have all notifications turned on. Also, download my app from the Google Play Store. It's 100% free. When things go down, I can send out messages directly to your phone, notifications to let you know what's happening and to let you know when I go live. Okay, but I will be covering this attack live. It will be historic. And here we have an Iranian IRGC cargo plane that landed in Venezuela yesterday. And what's concerning about this plane is the IRGC has used this plane to ship weapons to Sudan in the past. So it looks like the IRGC is moving weapons into Venezuela, possibly to strike our bases in the Caribbean and along the Gulf of America and Florida and different places. Maybe they're moving missile systems into Venezuela, and they're going to retaliate by striking some of our bases, okay, in Florida and different areas. So, guys, get prepared. And Iranian state media said yesterday that Iran would strike the Diego Garcia facility with ballistic missiles and suicide drones in retaliation for any U.S. hostile action against the Iranian nation. The Iranian official further added to the threat to attack Diego Garcia by also threatening to attack Turkey and countries hosting U.S. bases in the Middle East, stating there will be no distinction in targeting British or American forces if Iran is attacked from any base in the region or within the range of Iranian missiles. When the time comes, it won't matter whether you're an American, British, or Turkish soldier. You will be targeted if your base is used by Americans. Wow. And a senior Israeli official said there will be no choice but a military confrontation with Iran. Preparations are underway in Israel for action in the near future. Wow. And Israeli Channel 12 is reporting that the IDF has ordered to complete all preparations for an Iranian strike mission by mid-2025. I think it's going to be sooner. I think it could be this coming week. Okay, and Israel announced an expansion of operations in the southern Gaza Strip, and the president of the U.S. sent a striking warning to Iran today, saying there will be bombing if Tehran does not make a deal on its nuclear program. That's what he said this morning. And the U.S. president said he's pissed off with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, telling NBC News today that he'll impose more sanctions on Moscow if it doesn't cooperate on negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. I was very angry, pissed off when Putin started getting into Zelensky's credibility because that's not going in the right location, you understand? The president said in an interview with Meet the Press host Kristen Welker, who reported more on the discussion Sunday. But new leadership means you're not going to have a deal for a long time, right? The U.S. president warned that failure to reach a deal could result in secondary tariffs. If Russia and I are unable to make a deal on stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine, and if I think it was Russia's fault, which it might not be, but if I think it was Russia's fault, I am going to put secondary tariffs on oil, on all oil coming out of Russia. Wow. And a senior U.S. official confirmed yesterday that the B-2 stealth bombers sent to Diego Garcia are linked to Iran and the deadline for Iran to agree on the nuclear deal. So the U.S. confirming that those stealth bombers are there for Iran, okay? And yesterday, multiple ISIS members were taken out by the U.S. Air Force in an airstrike in northeastern Somalia, and yesterday several Houthi commanders were killed in a fresh round of U.S. airstrikes against Yemen. The airstrikes reportedly targeted a meeting of senior Houthi leaders in Sadr, Yemen. And there is a NOTAM up for tomorrow near Isfahan, Iran. Isfahan is where Iran has one of its primary nuclear weapons development facilities. So there is a NOTAM, a notice to airmen. So some kind of an airspace closure around Isfahan tomorrow. And the U.S. president's letter to the leader of Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei, was leaked out. I want to read it to you. He wrote, "It's time to open a new page of cooperation and mutual respect, and there's a historic opportunity ahead. The United States, under my leadership, is prepared to take a major step towards peace, de-escalation, and the removal of sanctions. If you reject the extended hand and choose the path of escalation and support for terrorist organizations, I warn you of a decisive and swift response. We will not stand idly by in the face of your regime's threats to our people or our allies. If you are ready to negotiate, we are ready too, but if you continue to ignore the world's demands, history will record that you missed a great opportunity. Wow. Okay, so strong words there from the U.S. president to the leader of Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei. And the Russians are claiming that as a result of a Ukrainian drone strike on their nuclear bomber base in Saratov, the Engels air base, apparently nuclear munitions storage facilities were damaged and radiation is now being released. They're calling on Russian military personnel to refrain from going to the base over the next couple of days. So I don't know if that's true or not, but we do know that Ukraine hit the Engels base twice already with drones. The first time they destroyed a huge supply of missiles and fuel that was stored there, and they hit Engels again like 2 days ago. But Russia's claiming they hit some nuclear munitions storage, which, according to Russia's nuclear doctrine, would allow Russia to use nuclear weapons against Ukraine. And one of Putin's limos blew up last night in the center of Moscow near the FSB headquarters. So obviously Putin was being targeted. And British and French troops will arrive in Ukraine as soon as next week. According to Emmanuel Macron, the troops will arrive next week to prepare a plan to support Ukraine's armed forces. The decision was the result of a summit in Paris where further steps were determined in confronting Russian aggression. Okay, so they're sending troops to strategic locations in Ukraine. That is absolutely huge. And the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said the stationing of NATO troops in Ukraine is completely unacceptable as it opens the possibility of a direct conflict between Russia and NATO. So this is huge news, guys. France and Britain are sending troops to strategic sites in Ukraine. That's one of Russia's red lines, okay? And then plus Ukraine striking the Engels air base, which is one of 4 of Russia's nuclear bomber bases, okay? That's an attack on Russia's nuclear triad, which Russia considers justifiable to respond to with nuclear weapons, okay? And Russia launched a big drone attack on the city of Kharkiv yesterday in Ukraine. Apparently 4 people were killed. And Russia launched a drone attack on Kharkiv yesterday, killing 4 people. And the night before, they attacked Dnipropetrovsk. So 2 brutal attacks back to back, first Dnipro and then Kharkiv. Okay, civilian targets were hit. And Ukraine is going to request changes to the new minerals deal. According to Bloomberg, Ukraine will be seeking for the U.S. to commit to more U.S. investment and clarify how a reconstruction fund would operate, a person familiar with the matter said. And I want to just show you guys some imagery of Iranian missile factories and storage locations. So this is one of Iran's primary missile factories, and you can see it's built under this mountain here. Okay, and they have these tunnels going into the mountain. So the U.S. is going to have to use some serious earth-penetrating weaponry to destroy a lot of these missile sites and nuclear sites, okay? So that's why the stealth bombers are being brought in. My guess is they're probably going to be using the MOP, or Massive Ordnance Penetrator, which is a 30,000-pound bomb specifically made to destroy bunkers. It has a smart fuse, so when it penetrates through the earth, it can detect when there's a void, and then when it senses a void under the earth, it'll automatically detonate. Okay, and this is in situations where the U.S. doesn't know the depth of the bunker underground. Otherwise, they could pre-program the detonation depth. If they know, let's say, the bunker is 200 feet underground, then they would set the fuse to detonate once the warhead goes 200 feet underground. But if they don't know, then it'll sense when there's a void and it'll automatically blow up. Okay, so that's probably what they're going to use unless they go nuclear and they use earth-penetrating tactical nukes like the B-61, which is a possibility as well, especially if Trump wants to really make a statement. And this imagery, by the way, is new. This is from January, okay? So this is recent imagery, and this is by that same missile factory. You can see this huge truck here. This is an 18-wheeler. And this is not for supplies. There's actually an ICBM in this truck, okay? So it's concealed in the trailer, and you can see this bunker here. That's where they park these trucks and missiles, in these bunkers, so they can pull them out. They can load up the truck, and then they can launch the missile, but it's fully concealed in this 18-wheeler, so you don't even know if this is just a regular tractor trailer or does it have an ICBM in the back. And here's a picture of Putin's limo when it blew up yesterday, one of Putin's limos, okay, part of his limo fleet. I'm sure he's got a whole bunch. And we also have Polish infantry fighting vehicles now wearing war markings, okay? So you can see this X here on the side of this Polish IFV, or infantry fighting vehicle, and this means that Poland is getting ready for war, okay? And so they've already painted all of their tanks and infantry fighting vehicles in the event of an invasion from Russia or Belarus. All of their equipment is already marked up, so there's no fratricide, there's no friendly fire. And we saw 2 weeks ago, I shared some footage of these tanks being moved from Germany into Poland or Lithuania or Ukraine that had this same marking, okay, this X on the side. So this appears to be the war marking of NATO. They're going to use this X symbol, similar to how Russia had the Z on their tanks when they invaded Ukraine. Well, NATO has an X on their vehicles now. So this is a huge sign that NATO is preparing for war. Okay, that Russia is about to go to war with Europe, and I think it could kick off once Trump bombs Iran, okay? And Poland is considering reinstating compulsory military service in response to escalating threats from Russia and Belarus, defense officials told the outlet Polish Radio on March 29th. The return of mandatory military service is inevitable, said Major General Maciej Klisz, operational commander of Poland's armed forces. Klisz cited Finland as a model example, noting the country has nearly 1 million reserves out of a population of 5.5 million. To match that ratio, Poland would need to have 7 million reserves, Klisz said. Currently, the country has just over 300,000 reserves. So Poland wants 7 million reserves. That is insane. And the Polish General Jarosław Kraszewski also spoke in favor of mandatory military service. According to Polish radio, Kraszewski argued that even women could be included in mandatory military service. And previously, the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced plans on March the 7th to implement large-scale mandatory military training for all adult men to strengthen the country's reserve forces. The program, set to begin in 2026, does not amount to a reinstatement of mandatory military service. Instead, participants without prior military experience are expected to undergo multi-day trainings covering the basics of civil defense, first aid, and select military skills. So, very interesting. And we're hearing that Russia is preparing to launch a massive military offensive in Ukraine in the coming weeks. According to Ukrainian military officials and analysts, apparently they're going to start a multi-pronged push along the entire front line. And currently there's a large-scale civil defense exercise underway in Taiwan, focusing on a whole-of-society approach to disaster and war response. And the USS Carl Vinson departed Guam on Friday and is now heading towards the Middle East. It should get there probably by the end of the week. Okay, so we could see strikes on Iran probably on Thursday or Friday or this next coming weekend. Okay. And German intelligence is saying that Putin is preparing for a major war against NATO. The report says that the Kremlin perceives relations with the West as a systemic conflict and is ready to use force to achieve its goals. Despite the concentration of Russian troops in Ukraine, the Russian Air Force and Navy remain combat ready. If the war in Ukraine ends, Russian units can be quickly transferred to the borders with the Baltic countries. Russian losses are being replenished, and the country's defense industry produces more than is needed for the current conflict. Russia's military spending is growing at a record pace. In 2025, it will reach about 120 billion euros, which is more than 6% of GDP. Compared to 2021, the military budget has actually increased fourfold. According to the Kremlin's plans, the size of the army should increase to 1.5 million people, and the volume of weapons and equipment on the border with NATO to increase by 30 to 50%. So that is absolutely huge news. And we had a massive amount of reconnaissance this morning and last night in the Baltic Sea. Here we have 2 U.S. sub-Hunter planes that were active off the coast of Kaliningrad, and they were flying really low. This is extremely unusual to have 2 sub-Hunters. They usually fly just one, but there were 2 of them right off the coast of Kaliningrad, and they were flying really low here close to Poland and Lithuania. So they're scanning this area to see if there's any Russian attack subs in the Baltic Sea that could potentially strike Poland and the Baltics. Okay, so this is very concerning. It means that Russia's about to make their move on Poland and the Baltics. And then here we have some private reconnaissance planes that were looping around Kaliningrad. And what's interesting is we also had some Romanian F-16s flying over the Baltics, which is very, very unusual. And we currently have the U.S. Defense Secretary on his way back to the U.S. You can see his plane here flying over eastern Montana right now. And the search for the missing soldiers in Lithuania continues. They started to pump out the swamp where their M88 Hercules armored recovery vehicle was found under 15 feet of water. We don't know if they're alive or dead. One theory that I put out was that they deserted to Russia and exfiltrated some secret information about NATO deployments in Lithuania, because where this happened is literally just 5 miles to the Belarus border. Okay, so they could easily walk or jog to the Belarus border in just a couple of minutes. Okay, and here we have a U.S. Army Chinook that was flying near the Lithuania-Belarus border in the area where these 4 soldiers went missing. So basically they want to see if these soldiers are in that vehicle under the water, if they died in the swamp. And if not, then that means foul play is very likely. And we had a massive movement of military equipment to South Korea last night. There were 2 U.S. Air Force C-17 Globemasters that went from Alaska to South Korea. Here's one of them, and then here's another one. So, and then there was also a C-5 as well. And then here we have a Chinese Air Force AWACS plane. This thing has been flying here pretty much every day for the last 2 weeks. So it looks like China's getting ready to strike Taiwan. I think what's going to happen, and I could be wrong, is that after the U.S. bombs Iran, I think Putin and China are going to be furious, and I think they're going to make their moves. I think Russia's going to attack the Baltics and Poland, and China's going to attack Taiwan. But we'll have to wait and see. Make sure you download my free app from the Google Play Store. We're currently working on the Apple version. It's been a work in progress for several weeks, and my developers have been working really hard at it, so make sure you thank them. And join me in the live streams almost every night around 10 or 11 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll probably be live again tonight. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere. Culinary out. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.